Hi, I'm Taylor with Mom on the Spectrum, and in this video, I'm sharing 12 ways to avoid conversational overwhelm in autistics. This is part of a series I've been doing over conversational supports for autistic people, and in the last video, I shared ways that autistic or non-autistic people can accommodate us. This video is going to be focused on ways that autistic people can accommodate ourselves. As you watch, please keep in mind that the goal is not to get autistic people up to the neurotypical level of communication. There aren't levels and no one is above anybody else. The goal is for us all to learn how to respect each other's communication differences and learn how to create environments where we feel safe and validated to show up as our authentic selves. And I'm here to help us do that today. Number one, clarify the purpose of the conversation. So if you've been around the channel for a while, you know that understanding the why is very important for autistic people. So here are some example questions that you could ask to help clarify the purpose of a conversation. Are you looking for help solving a problem, or would you rather I just listen and offer emotional support? Are you looking for clarity about what we discussed earlier? I'm having a hard time understanding why you need this information. Could you help me understand where you're coming from? So these are all examples of questions that you could ask to help clarify the why behind a conversation you're having. It might feel a bit awkward to ask these questions at first, but it's just like any new skill. Whenever you learn it, it's going to feel awkward. It just takes a little bit of practice. Number two, clarify expectations. So if you've taken any of my online classes, you know that it's very important that autistic people understand the expectations placed on them. This helps us feel much safer, much more engaged. If you're interested in checking out my online autism education classes, they are on demand and you can find them at momonthespectrum.life/classes, and I'll put a link in the description. But understanding expectations is a really important thing for us in conversation. You could do this by asking, are you looking for a response from me? When do you need a decision about this? How can I help in this situation? What is the desired end result? It's not as important which question you use to figure out the expectations of any given conversation, but just understanding, oh, in this situation, it would probably help me to understand what's being expected. And you can get there however you want to ask the question. Number three, clarify emotions. So it can be difficult for autistic people to understand the emotions that someone's feeling. We also struggle with something called alexithymia, which is difficulty putting emotions into words. That's something that happens sometimes within our own experience, but when it comes to other people, it can be helpful to ask questions to better understand what emotional state they're in. I know that myself and a lot of other people in the community that I work with, we tend to feel like people are upset with us sometimes, even when they're not. So a question that you could ask would be, I'm having trouble reading your body language. Could you help me understand how you're feeling right now? Or it seems like you're upset. Am I reading that correctly? And again, might feel a little bit awkward to ask these questions, but the heart of the matter is you're trying to connect more deeply to this person, and sometimes clarity is needed. And by the way, if you've had your eye on this fidget that I've been playing with, this is my favorite fidget ever. It's always on my desk. This is the Ono roller, and I will put a link to this in the description along with a discount code if you want to check it out. Okay, number four, ask for more time. Autistic people are often delayed processors, which means that sometimes you can have a conversation and not really know how you want to respond until later. Maybe it's later that day, maybe it's later that week. This is probably the most common tip that came through when I asked the community for helpful things in navigating conversations, is just asking for more time. So some ways you could do that would be to say, I'm not sure how I'm feeling about this right now. Would it be okay if I get back to you? Or I need some time to process this information. When do you need an answer? Number five, express your intentions. So sometimes autistic people might come across as disinterested or uninvolved. This could be because sometimes we have a flat affect. Sometimes we don't have a lot of expression on our face. That is a generalization and doesn't apply to all of us. But also, sometimes we just need to do different things to pay attention in a conversation. So for example, I might stem and be looking off in the other direction while you're talking to me, but I'm doing that so that I can better integrate the information that you're sharing with me. I am interested, I am listening, so it can be helpful to restate these things. So saying something like, I know it probably looks like I'm not listening, but I stem so that I can pay better attention. And you can fill in that blank with however you process information. You know, it might look like I'm not paying attention, but I do blank to help myself focus. And that's one way that you can reiterate and communicate, yes, I'm here with you, I'm listening, I just do it in my own way. I think this is especially helpful for loved ones. Like, we might not necessarily want to say this in a working relationship, But I think this is a good thing to reconnect on regularly with people that we love and letting them know, I'm here with you, I'm listening, I care about this conversation. I just need to do some different things to stay engaged. And while you're here, if this video is helpful to you, if you could like the video, just click that little thumbs up button and then subscribe to the channel so that you can stay up to date with new stuff. That helps me out so much. It's just a free way that you can say thank you. This video meant something to me. Number 6, rephrase or summarize to make sure that you're on the same page. So you could check in with the other person and say, what I'm hearing you say is blank, and then restate your understanding of the conversation. That way they have the chance to clarify if there's any miscommunication, add any information if there's anything missing. It helps you both know that you're on the same page. Number 7, ask for alternative communication styles. So a lot of times autistic people might have more difficulty communicating verbally than non-verbally. So you might ask, hey, would it be okay if I respond to this in an email? Would it be okay if I send you a text tonight and give you an answer? Those types of alternative communication methods can really de-stress autistic people. And on this note, I just want to say you don't owe anybody an explanation for asking for something like that. You can just say, hey, would it be okay if I replied to this in an email tomorrow? And if somebody asks you why, just say, it works better for me, period. It might be hard to sit with that, but it's totally a valid answer, and you don't owe anybody a response or explanation. Number 8, move the conversation to a different environment. So autistic people often get overstimulated by different input around them. So a sound might be too loud, the lights might be too bright. It's perfectly okay to say, hey, could we move this conversation outside? Or could we move this conversation to a different room? I know those types of accommodations really help me feel like I can focus in more whenever I'm able to reduce some of the sensory input. I can hear people better. I thought about making a t-shirt that says, I can't hear you, the lights are too bright. That's totally my vibe. Number 9, process confusing conversations with a friend, family member, or therapist. I took a text conversation that I had with somebody to my therapist and I just had them read it. My mind was totally blown because I had one understanding of the conversation and my psychologist was like, that's not the tone I'm getting at all here. Here is what I think is being communicated in this conversation. It was a total eye-opener for me because a lot of times I know autistic people, we have trouble reading tone or interpreting people's motivations. So having an outside source when appropriate can be really helpful for understanding the undertones of a conversation, especially if it's a significant one that you need to clearly understand to make decisions for your life. Number 10, using technology to help understand tone. Okay, so if you type in goblin.tools to your browser, just no www, no HTTP, and there are 5 different components, maybe 6 now at the top, of different technologies you can use to help with executive functioning things, which you can learn more about what that is in another video. But the one I want to talk about is called the Judge, and you can copy and paste an email, a text, and click Judge the tone of this, and it will tell you the tone of that conversation. And there's also a component on there, I just looked it up, called the formalizer. So let's say you need to write an email to your boss but aren't sure how to make it appropriate. You could write the email and then there's options that say like make it more formal, make it less sarcastic, make it less snarky, make it less emotional. And it will keep the sentiment but change the wording so that it comes across the way that you want it to come across. Super, super helpful resource for a lot of autistic people. Number 11, this might be the most important one. Ask for help when you need it and just be honest. It's okay to be yourself. And it's okay to just say, you know what, I'm really confused by this conversation. I don't know what you're expecting from me. I don't know what we're talking about. Could you please help me understand this? Or I'm really overwhelmed and I can't have this conversation right now. I'm going to need to come back to this later. It's okay to be honest. It's even okay to write out a note and share non-verbally. Can't talk right now, a little overwhelmed. Whatever you need to do, it's okay to be honest and to be truthful about where you're at. Number 12, be okay with ending the conversation. It's okay to say, I'm uncomfortable with this conversation. I don't want to talk about this right now. Or could we please talk about something else? And then it's okay to enforce that boundary. If somebody keeps bringing something up that you're uncomfortable with, you can enforce the boundary by leaving, relocating, choosing to do another activity. And I think a lot of autistic people really need to hear this. You don't have to stay in an uncomfortable situation just because you feel like that's what's being required of you. I'm going to say it one more time. You don't have to stay in an uncomfortable situation or conversation just because you feel like that's what's being required of you. And then I should have added this one to the list. I'm just going to add it as a bonus freebie here, number 13. Take notes. This isn't always going to work, but one thing I really love to do, especially when I run online meetings, is I have notepads everywhere. I have Post-it notes, journals, everything. I just take notes when people are talking because I have a hard time keeping ideas in my brain. So as soon as I think of something to say, I need to say it or I'm going to forget it. So when people are talking, I'll just keep mental notes on the side, and then I know where to pick back up whenever there's a lull in conversation and I can jump back in. So these are the 13 tips. I hope that they were helpful to you. Let me know in the comments if you would add anything else and which tip was the most helpful. Like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.